Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, guys. Today we'll be reading a very interesting book called Billy Gets Bullied. So let's get started. Chapter 1, 10, 10, 10. Do you know what, Jacob? I'm going to be 10 years old on the 10th day of the 10th month. That's got to be magical. Billy clapped his hands in excitement. Jacko, Billy's loving golden retriever dog, lay on the floor beside his bed and licked his paw. 10, 10, 10, Jacko, Billy repeated. Billy spoke often to his dog about his feelings and thoughts. And it's only 7 days until my birthday. Jacko didn't seem to share Billy's excitement and continued to lick his paw. To turn 10 is special. It will never happen again. Ever. Billy ruffled the dog's fur. Are you listening? Jacko looked up at Billy and licked his hand as if to say, I hear every word. Do you know what, Jacko? I can count to over 1,000 and spell marmalade. The golden retriever didn't look impressed. I've learned so much and can do all sorts of things, and I'm only 9. What is it going to be like when I get to 10? That reminded Billy of his best friend, Ant. Hey, Jacko, you know Ant? Upon hearing Ant's name, Jacko wagged his tail. He can't spell London. I can. Everyone knows that London has 2 ONS and no NOS. Even Ant's little sister Max knows that, and she's only 8. Billy rubbed Jacko's ears. I hope Max can make it to my party. Mom said she won't count her as one of my 6 friends, which I really preached about. It feels hard choosing who to invite to your party. Somebody always gets left out. Thoughts of his party got Billy wondering about birthday presents. I hope that Mom and Dad buy me a big bike so I can ride even faster than I already do. The trouble is that when other people buy you things, they often don't get it right. Not because they don't try or care, but more because I'm not exactly sure what I want. To see something on TV or the internet and actually hold it in your hands are completely different things. The dog gave a low woof. I upset Mum last year when I suggested Granddad could give me money. She says I should be grateful for whatever I get. Mum is right, but Granddad never knows what to buy me. I reckon being nearly 10 is old enough to ask for money, don't you? Jacko lifted his head and grasped Billy's pajama bottoms with his teeth and then pulled. Billy looked down at him. You're easy to buy for, a big bone, and you're happy for hours. And, asking for money doesn't seem so bad. Come to think of it, Granddad will be pleased. He doesn't like toy shops or department stores much. Busy tugging on Billy's pajamas, Jacko didn't listen. He wanted to go outside. We will walk later, Jacko, Billy said, tugging back until Jacko let go. The dog slumped down and rested his head between his paws. He looked sad. Billy felt bad and jumped out of bed. Come on then, Jacko. Let's go for a walk now. Chapter 2. The day of Billy's birthday. Finally, the Saturday of Billy's birthday arrived. His alarm woke him at 7 o'clock. He didn't want to miss the postman and give Jacko a chance to eat any of his cards. The clink-clank sound of the letterbox rattled upstairs. Billy threw his Transformers duvet on the floor, grabbed his red and white stripy dressing gown, and then jumped into his slippers. He made a running, stumbling descent down the stairs. Unhurt and full of excitement, Billy Rubby tackled Jacko, who'd raced down the hall towards the letterbox. A 6-stone golden retriever, traveling at full speed, took some serious holding back. Billy, now 10 years old, managed to find the extra strength to match his double-digit age. He restrained the dog before anything got sniffed, chewed, or slobbered on, or swung violently into the frenzied act of destruction. Instead of getting annoyed, Jacko turned and gave Billy a good licking, followed by a beating from his exciting, wagging tail. Billy shuffled through the post. When he saw his name, he picked out an envelope. Look, Jacko, this is mine. This one marked Mr. W. Field. Billy's real name was William, but everybody called him Billy. Although his dad's name was Walter, and they shared the same initial, the sender had addressed the envelope to Master W. Field and not Mr. W. Field. "I bet the card's from Granddad," Billy said. Although his granddad lived only 2 streets away and he had posted it. He knew it felt exciting to receive letters by post, and that's what made him so special. Billy found 3 more envelopes addressed to him. One had just Billy scribbled across it in a big blue felt-tip marker. That must be from And, but he never gets up this early, even on school days. He must have asked his dad to deliver it on his way to work, Billy thought. He laid the 4 unopened cards on the breakfast table before he sorted and stacked them in order. The top one he would open first, saving the best for the last. Granddad always chose great cards, and being Billy's only grandfather, that made his card doubly special. On top lay Anne's card. He always wrote a joke instead, and this time proved no different. "What goes up but never comes down, Jacob?" Billy reads it out. Billy tossed the card to one side. "Everybody knows that. It's your age." The next 2 cards in the pile had come from Billy's twin aunts. "Look at these 2, Jacob. My aunts might be twins, but they were born on different days and in different months. Auntie May was born on 31st of May, just before midnight, and Auntie June was born 30 minutes later on the 1st day of June. How crazy is that? It's almost as crazy as me turning 10 on the 10th day of the 10th month." Billy leapt around, repeating the number over and over in disbelief that he had finally reached his double-digit birthday. When Billy sat down, he fished out a gift voucher from each of his aunt's envelopes. "Mom says it's because they live in Danvin and it costs too much to spend a present from there. But Mom thinks it's a cop-out. Why don't they just send 1 card and 1 gift voucher? It would work out a lot cheaper." Jacko rested his head on Billy's lap and sniffed at the cards. "Can you smell a cat?" He brought the cards nearer to Jacko's nose. "My aunts share their house with 14 cats at the last count." Billy poured milk over his Rice Krispies, then picked up his granddad's card and held it towards the light, hoping to get a hint of the content. "Money, money, money, please let it be money," went through his mind. He took a spoonful of cereal. Milk dribbled down his chin. With a quick wipe of his dressing gown sleeve, it had gone. Dressing gowns were designed for such emergencies. He grabbed the bread knife and, holding the blade away from him, he inched it along the envelope seal. Billy didn't want to damage the money inside. When he peered into the slit, he could make out a cartoon drawing. Curious, he pulled out the card. It had a picture of a boy on a bicycle, wobbling along a pothole track. Expectation traveled down his spine. When the card split apart, no marine was found. "Oh, Jaco," his heart sank. "I knew it." Confused and disappointed, he dropped the card and ran to his bedroom. He had felt so sure his granddad had understood how important it was for him to get money. His eyes sprang at an unexpected leak. Jaco took up the chase. He beat Billy to the bathroom of the stairs and raced for the top. 4 legs being better than 2, he arrived first. The dog sat, tongue lolling, waiting for his slow coach companion to catch up. When Billy's face leveled with Jaco's, the dog tried to lick him, but Billy moved aside gently. Then he went into his bedroom and threw himself onto his bed. Jaco slunk after him and waited until he had settled before he climbed up beside him. A sandpaper tongue swished around Billy's cheek. "You won't let me down." Billy ruffled the dog's ears before Jaco slipped his head between his paws and let out a soft moan. "Happy birthday, Billy," his mom called from somewhere in the house. She peered around his bedroom door. "Why the long face?" Billy's mom creased her brow. "You've waited for today for ages. What happened?" The bed dipped when she sat on it. Billy rolled over and buried his face in the pillow. Billy's mom stroked his hair. "Billy," she said, lowering her voice. Talk to me. Granddad, he whispered. Then he pressed his face into the pillow. Jacob sneezed as dogs often do for no apparent reason. Both Billy and his mom jumped. Billy stretched his arm around to smooth the dog's fur, but said nothing. What about Granddad? What's he done? Mama asked. No money. What do you mean no money? It'll be some stupid present like usual. I asked him for money. Billy, you can't make demands on him. People give presents because they want to, not because you asked. You don't know what he's got for you. It will be a surprise. She sounded cheery as she tried to lift his spirits. You know, you like surprises. What about... Mom? Billy said. It's because he's old. He has no idea of what kids want. Once more, he buried his face in the pillow. The hollow feeling in his stomach remained. Be that as it may, you'd better buck up, young man. You have guests arriving for your party in a few hours. Billy's mom tried to lift him into a sitting position, but Billy clung to his pillow. Jacob jumped off the bed in anticipation. Okay, Jacob, I'm coming, Billy's mom said as she stroked the dog's head. Now, Billy, you've got to shower, dress, and get yourself downstairs as quickly as you can. And no more Mr. Grumpy. Chapter 3. The Magic of a Birthday Party. It's 3 o'clock. No sooner had Billy spoken than the doorbell rang, followed by 3 hard raps of the knocker. Okay, keep your hair on, Billy mumbled to himself, as he had Jacko reach the door together. Hi, mate. I should have known it was you, Billy said to Aunt when he opened the door. Aunt gave Jacko a stroke as he pleased. Max stood close behind him. When she saw Jacko, she got down on her knees and gave him a hug. The dog licked her face. Oi, I've had a wash today, thanks. Max wiped her cheek with her sleeve. Soon the house pulsated with the sound of 6 boys, 1 girl, and a dog having fun. Blind Man's Buffed proved popular, as did musical chairs, with Jacko as the donkey sticking his tail on the donkey took on a new twist. Blindfolded, with one arm behind their backs, each child took turns to sellotape a cardboard tail onto their boisterous dog that had little understanding of or regard for the game rules. Okay, listen up. Billy's mom clapped her hands to get their attention. If you go into the next room, she raised her voice to compete with this noise. Boys, hush now. We have our entertainer, the great Magisco. She threw open her arms like theater curtains unfolding. The great Magisco will perform tricks, the likes of which you've never seen before. The drama in her voice got the children's attention. The boys settled on the floor in the living room. The room's curtains were already shut, so when Billy's mom turned off the table lamp, it went completely dark. The boys whistled and hooted. In the dark, the music began, low and haunting at first, then louder as it reached a crescendo. The lights came on, and as if by magic, the great Magisco appeared. It was Billy's granddad, wearing a top hat from the charity shop and a great plastic cape he used to keep the rain off while fishing. He stood twirling a black walking stick for added effect. Billy's granddad bowed deeply with such force that his hat toppled forward. Quick as a flash, he cut it. He held out both hat and sticks to his assistant, who stood alongside him. Max, now in a pink tutu covered in sequins, sparkled when she moved. The music faded. The great Magisco spoke. I hope you are here in good cheer, to see and wonder at sights to behold. Magic is serious, magic is fun, but most of all... Grandad paused for dramatic effect. It has to be done with no disbelievers, I'm told. He raised his finger and pointed at Billy and his friends. Do you all believe in magic? Each boy nodded except Tom, who laughed. I see. We have a doubter. Would you like me to return you into a frog, boy? The great Magisco spoke in a deep rumble. Tom stopped laughing while the others roared, "Shush, and we'll begin." The great Magisco waved his hand over the boy's head. He beckoned to his assistant Max, who passed him a pack of playing cards. He shuffled them once, then twice, and once more for good luck. He made large, elaborate gestures as he did. The boys looked on, silent and unblinking. After shaping the cards into a fan, the great Magisco offered the pack to each boy in turn. "Pick one card only," he said. "Now, don't show your card to me or anyone else. Take a look for yourself and then sit on it." The great Magisco's voice sounded ferocious, almost a growl. Billy had never heard his granddad speak like this, nor had Jaco, who wandered up to Max looking up for reassurance. She tried to shove him away. "I'm busy, silly," she spoke in a whisper. "It's okay, it's only Granddad, or your old softy." The great Magisco passed the remaining cards to his sequined assistant. As he did, Jaco pushed his nose between Max's hand and the approaching pack of cards. The whole lot landed on the carpet, making the boys roar with laughter. "You've spoiled it now," Max told Jaco. He looked at her with his large, soulful brown eyes. "Go on, shoo," she said gently. Billy half rose from his seated position to call the dog. For some reason, his mom had come to stand behind him. Jaco ignored them both. On his feet, Billy patted his knees to get the dog to come. "Sit, Jaco." The dog groaned as he collapsed on the floor. Billy squatted beside him. The great Magisco made a knot in the piece of rope. Then, holding the rope by the end, he shook it. The knot vanished. Everyone gasped and clapped. Then he made a coin disappear, only for it to reappear behind Anne's ear. More gasps and claps came from the boys. "Now, for my last trick," said the great Magisco, as the lights dimmed. Max rolled the newspaper into a long, thin tube. Billy's mom turned the lights up again while Max tipped the tube every which way so that all could see it was empty. She passed it to the great Magisco, who twirled it around and swift his cape for added drama. "Abracadabra, see them fly, watch the balls take to the sky." And then bringing the tube to his mouth, the great Magisco made a mighty huff. 2 ping-pong balls shot to the far side of the room. One bounced off a picture frame, and Anne caught it. The other dropped down behind the sofa. Hot on its trail, Jaco sneezed into an impossible gap. True to his breed, he sniffed and snorted in the dust until he retrieved it. As everybody clapped, the great Magisco took Max's hand, and they both bowed. "That's all, except for singing Happy Birthday to Billy." Granddad smiled at him. "Maybe we should stand up to sing." All the boys stood. With the lights on, Tom noticed something on the floor. "Hey, what's that?" Tom pointed behind Billy. "They're behind you, Billy, on the floor." Yeah, good one. I'm not falling for that old trick," Billy said. But he could not help taking a sneak peek. He made a vacuum with his mouth, sucking all the air out of the room. "Wow," he exclaimed. His playing cards had gone, and a 20-pound note lay where he had been squatting. "Granddad, look!" He waved the money over his head. "Your magic worked! My card's gone, but see what I've got?" Billy ran to his granddad and clasped both arms around him. He held on with great force, making Granddad rock back and forth. "Steady on, or you'll push me over. I'm not as young as I used to be." Granddad hugged him back. "Isn't that what you wanted?" "You're the best Granddad ever." "Thanks." "Now, don't lose it. Put it in your bedroom, safe away from Jaco." Granddad fluffed Billy's hair. On hearing his name, Jaco appeared with a mouthful of red and black stripped sock, the one Billy had lost months ago. A pile of fluff and missing ping-pong balls. Jacob looked proud of himself, expecting praise, but Billy had gone. Billy had received his first ever 20-pound note for his 10th birthday on the 10th day of the 10th month from his only granddad. Excitedly, he ran up to the stairs, 2 at a time, heading for his bedroom. Billy needed to make sure that no one could mistake the note for anyone else's money. He wrote his name on it in black ink, Billy, followed by 10. Chapter 4. Billy and Ant at the park. Now, be careful, Billy. Keep on the main road and remember to walk over the crossing. Traffic moves too fast close to the park. You'd think they'd put speed bumps in, but his mom's voice trailed away when Billy and Ant sped off. Once inside the park gates, every time the coast looked clear. The boys practiced wheelies. This bike's awesome. Billy felt delighted with his main birthday present. He let out a yahoo as they sped across the park. Oi, Field, I heard you had a birthday party. Why didn't you invite me? Someone shouted. Billy stopped dead in his tracks. Ant, come here, quick. He covered his mouth with his hand so only Ant could hear. That's Tom's older brother, Eddie, isn't it? Ant peered across as the 3 lads standing next to the swings. Looks like him, but I've no idea who he's with. I don't think we should go any nearer, Ant said. Didn't you hear me? Eddie growled, walking towards them, and his mates tagged along behind. I said you had a birthday party and you didn't invite me. I think that's a bit rude. His pace quickened. He only invited people from our class. Your brother Tom came, Ant called back. I ain't talking about you, Titch, Eddie said, poking Ant in the chest. It's birthday boy here I've got a problem with. He glared at Billy. His jaw hardened. My brother says you got 20 quid from your magician dad. Well, I like magic, only I ain't got a granddad 'cause he's dead. I think you should give me that 20 quid to show that you're sorry for my loss. Eddie pressed his face up against Billy's. His breath smelled of mint gum and cigarettes. Billy pulled back. His new bike shifted off balance and he nearly dropped it. Oi, mind my trainers with that heap. Eddie kicked the tire. Now, see what you've done? You've put a big blank mark right across the front of my trainers. Eddie lifted his foot to show them. Billy's stomach catapulted, and a lump formed in his throat. His heart beat faster with fear. He had never liked Eddie, and now he liked him even less. But you did that. You kicked my tire. Billy spoke without thinking. You're calling me a liar? Eddie's face reddened as he turned to his gang for support. Did you hear me? They all nodded in agreement. What are you going to do about it, Eddie? The tallest one asked. I think I need to teach him a lesson in manners, a hard lesson, Eddie snarled. It's not nice to go around calling people liars. While he spoke, he poked Billy's arm. Didn't your mom teach you nothing? You've got a mom, haven't you? Oh, that's right. She's a deputy head teacher at our stupid school. A right old moaner she is, always barking at us. Eddie pretended to be Billy's mom. Do this, do that, he said in a comically high-pitched voice. Doesn't she drive you crazy at home? Eddie laughed, as did his friends. I saw you kick the tire, Ant said, pulling himself up to his full height. Billy didn't do anything. Eddie spun around. When I want your opinion, I'll ask for it. He gave Ant a death glare. My grip's with him, he jabbed Billy's arm. Not you, unless you want a slap as well. Ant held Eddie's stare for a moment before dropping his eyes. He stepped back a pace and focused on a spot on the ground. He felt terrified and wanted to turn invisible. I'll tell you what, Billy Field. If you get on your bike now and ride back to your home to get that 20 quid for me, I'll forget all about this and you won't get hurt. Eddie didn't wait for an answer. He looked at his watch. Be at the bottom of your road in 15 minutes. Go on, get out of here. What are you waiting for? The clock is ticking. Tick, tock, tick, talk. Eddie swung at Billy, trying to slap him around the back of his head. He missed. Billy and Ant rode away so fast that their battles blurred. The sound of mocking laughter followed them. "What are you gonna do, Billy?" Ant puffed. They kept up their fast pace. "I've got no choice. When we get back to my place, don't say anything to my mom or dad, and especially not to Granddad if you see him." "But you can't say nothing. What if your mom asks what you've done with the money?" They pulled up outside Billy's house. "Just follow my lead," Billy said. "That was quick, boys. Nothing's wrong, is there? You haven't got a puncture or anything like that?" Billy's mom looked at each of them in turn. "No, nothing, Mom. I forgot something, that's all. We'll be off again in a minute." Billy passed straight through the kitchen, trailed by Ant. Jaco joined the procession. The boys made their way to Billy's bedroom, and he collected the 20-pound note from his wooden pencil case where he had hidden it. Then Billy crammed it into his pockets, and he and Ant marched straight back downstairs, through the kitchen, and out through the back door. Jaco followed behind, hoping they would take him with him. "Sorry, Jaco." Billy stopped to give him a rub. While bent down, he whispered in his ear, "I bet you could scare off those bullies." He stroked Jaco one more time. As he did, a tear trickled into the corner of his eye. The thought of giving up his 20-pound note hit him hard. "You all right, Billy? You look like you're crying," his mom noticed. Billy could not speak. His throat has closed over. He pulled the door shut. "Billy?" she yelled, calling him back. "No, of course not," he said as he approached her. Upset, he had squeezed the words out. "One of Jaco's hair jabbed me in the eye." Billy rubbed at it, trying to hide his tears. As Billy and Ant approached the end of the road, Billy saw the group of older boys waiting. "They're there!" Billy pointed towards the gang. Being smaller, Ant couldn't see over the cars until they drew closer. "Oh yeah, I see him now. What are we gonna do?" Ant's eyes widened. He looked to Billy for guidance. Different ideas galloped through Billy's mind before he settled in on a plan. "You stop before we reach them and turn your bike around for a quick getaway. I'll pet it on, fling the 20-pound note at Eddie, then keep going as fast as I can. If we split up, they won't be able to chase us both." Billy looked at Ant to make sure he understood. Ant returned his glance. "Then go straight home, and we'll meet up as soon as we can," Billy said. Billy screwed up his courage and drew alongside the boys. He hit his brake. When screeched in response, a dust cloud hovered around his back tire for a few moments before fading away. He halted for a split second, long enough to throw the money at Eddie. Desperate to avoid capture, he pushed hard on his pedals. Then, watching for any flailing arms, hands, or feet, he ducked past the other boys to make his good escape. Billy pushed so hard that his foot slipped off the pedal, and the bike lurched to one side. He hit the ground with a thump. Tears pricked his eyes. While he lay in a heap, Eddie and his gang moved towards him. Billy ignored the jabbing pain from his shin and scrambled back onto his birthday bike. "You haven't seen the last of me, Billy boy." Gruffiness filled Eddie's voice. "Run, scaredy cat, but don't forget, I know where you live." Eddie's words followed Billy as he made his getaway. Chapter 5. Ant tells Max. Ant reached his home unscathed. Max was playing in the garden. "Where's Billy?" she asked. "I thought you two were going on a bike ride." "I saw his new bike parked in the garage at the party. I want a yellow one. That's the color of the sun. All bright and cheery. Colors should be cheerful, and yellow makes you happy." She stopped talking to catch her breath. "Are you happy?" She looked into Ant's face when he walked past. "You don't look happy." "I'm happy. Why aren't all people happy? What's to be sad about?" She skipped down the path. "Max, just shut up. His bike's blue. So what?" Max shrugged. "I only said yellow's like the sun. Anyways, don't shout at me. It's not nice to shout. I've done nothing wrong." "Sorry, sis. It's just that Billy and I had a little bit of trouble at the park." "What?" Who with? Max stopped smiling. Tom's brother, Eddie. What? Old stupid Eddie? Shh, don't let anyone hear you said that. Aunt looked around to make sure no one had heard. He stole Billy's 20-pound note, the one his granddad magicked. Why? 'Cause Billy never invited him to the party. Eddie got really mad because he likes magic. Well, his sister Katie, she's in my class and always calls him stupid. Apparently, he smokes around the back of the bike sheds, and everyone knows smoking is stupid, so he must be stupid too. Max continued with her game of hopscotch. Are you good friends with Katie? She's my... Max counted on her fingers. Number 6 best friend. No, wait. Me and Sally fell out when she told Miss I cheated in spelling. I didn't cheat. It just happened that I had danger written on my hand, and from what I'd learned words for the test. So Katie's my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 best friend. 5th, not 5, said Aunt. That's what I said. Max held up her hand with all her fingers pointing outwards. See, it's 5. Fine, 5. Will you see Katie soon? I've got swimming club tomorrow, and she's usually there. Max came to a halt. Why? We need a plan to get Billy's money back before his granddad finds out it got stolen. Well, Max said, continuing her jumping. Katie told me that on Tuesday after school, her, Tom, and Eddie are all going to the town to shop for school stuff. Their mom's taking them. Maybe you and Billy could learn to be pickpockets like in Oliver Twist. You could bump into Eddie and when he's with his mom and steal it back. She beamed. Aunt looked at her. Though not sure her plan would work, he didn't have a better one. We needed help, he thought. Chapter 6. Max has another plan. Max had another idea and soon arrived at Billy's granddad's front door. Ah, my magic helper. I wondered who was knocking. Billy's granddad tousled Max's hair. Please, Billy's granddad, I need to tell you something. Max looked around to check that no one could listen to them. Well, don't just stand there. Come on in. Only a few minutes, mind. I'm off to Billy's house for tea. We'll probably have leftovers from the party, curly sandwiches and stale cake. My daughter seems to think I'm a dustbin. It's true I hate waste, and my father would say, waste not, want not. We had nothing of this recycling stuff in my days. Nobody ever left anything. Most of the time, we didn't have enough food to go around. Never mind wasted. He sat in his large armchair while Max sat opposite him on the sofa. So what's so important, young lady? Granddad asked. Max built herself up, preparing to do what she knew she had to do. It wouldn't be easy. The bubbling in her stomach told her so. Billy doesn't know I'm here, nor does Aunt. She covered her mouth with her hand, fearful of being overheard. But I have a plan to get the money back. Hold on. A plan? Money back? What are you talking about, young lady? Granddad's face looked like he'd sucked on a lemon. You know Eddie, Tom's older brother, and Katie, his sister, who's in my class? Well, that's Eddie, not Tom, of course. No, of course. Granddad bent forward. Max didn't think that Billy's granddad had understood, so she said, Eddie stole the 20-pound you magicked for Billy, and I have a plan to get it back. She looked at him as if to say, isn't it obvious? Granddad scratched his head. Am I hearing you right? Did you say that Billy had this present stolen by this Eddie boy? Yes. Max saw a flash of disappointment in Granddad's eyes. He shook his head in disbelief. What's the world coming to? Eddie's 14, almost 15, and he goes to Elliott School, where Billy's mom is the head teacher, Max said. Deputy head teacher, Granddad said. Does Billy's mom know about Eddie? And does she know you're here? My mom knows I'm here, but I told her I'd come about magic. She doesn't know about the lost money. No one does. Lost or stolen, there's a big difference. Granddad rubbed his chin. Did Billy lose it and Eddie find it? Not according to Aunt, Meg said. He told me that Eddie stole it when they went to the park. She looked to see if Granddad understood. So I suggested they pickpocket Eddie on Tuesday after school, when he's in town with Katie and Tom, buying their school uniforms. Well, I'm not sure where they're buying, actually, but his mom will be there. Then I thought of your magic. So that's why I'm here. Max flopped back on the sofa, relieved to have completed her story. Magic, you say? Granddad wiped his hand around the back of his neck. What exactly is your plan? Max's excitement showed in the twinkling of her eyes. Well, Aunt said Eddie took the money since he didn't get invited to the party. And 'cause he missed your magic show. Max stopped talking to rummage around in her pocket before she pulled out a folded sheet of paper. Here. She smoothed the stretch and held it up. It's not finished yet, but it won't take long. I need to do a bit more coloring. She waved it about. Hold still. What is that? Granddad looked more confused than ever. Tell me your story to the finish. Max held out the drawing. I've only done it from memory, but it has a 20-pound note. Look, there's the 2 and there's the nothing. Her finger darted between the 2 figures. It's a 0, not nothing, Granddad said helpfully. Now Max looked confused. Oh, it doesn't matter, Granddad said. So you're suggesting that we take your 20-pound note and swap it for the real thing? Yes, but by using your magic, like you made the playing card turn into money at the party. That way, Billy gets his money back and Eddie ends up with a drawing. You don't expect him to think it's an actual 20-pound note, do you? No, of course not. It's to teach him a lesson, Max said. And this will happen on Tuesday, you say? Yeah, I'll see Katie tomorrow. Not Tuesday? Granddad's confused look returned. At swimming, it's always at swimming on Club Monday. Max wondered why he couldn't follow her. Granddad shook his head and scratched his chin some more. Bully's Granddad, you need to concentrate. Max waited for the lines on his forehead to smooth before continuing. At swimming, I'll ask Katie if I can go to shopping with her and her mom on Tuesday. You come to town too. The uniform shop is in the shopping center. Max spoke slowly. I'll meet you there. Under the clock, you know the big one, where all those soldiers march around swinging their arms? Her face lit up at the thought. Then I'll come and find you. Yes, I know the clock. I've taken Billy there many times. Then what? He looked at her expectantly. We'll find Eddie, and then you make the money jump out of his pocket or something. She shrugged. I don't know. You're the one who does magic. I need to give your plan more thought, but I'd certainly meet you under the clock. I'm afraid now I have to get ready to go to tea. Granddad stood. He held out his hand to help Max to her feet. Max slipped down from the sofa. Don't say anything to Billy, promise? She looked directly at Billy's granddad. Aunt says Billy's really upset, and it wasn't his fault. It was stupid Eddie's. I wonder how stupid Eddie actually is, Granddad said. He opened the door for Max. Bye, dear. We'll sort this out. He waved to her. Straight home now. See you Tuesday in the shopping center at 4 o'clock. When Billy awoke on Monday morning, his mom was in her study surrounded by piles of paper and didn't want anyone to disturb her. Billy sat at the kitchen table and played with his cereal, stirring it around the bowl. His eyes felt puffy from a night of crying. Fed up, he moved all the cereal to one side and took a spoonful of sugary milk. Then he pushed at the cereal again with his spoon. Jacob sat and watched. It's not fair, Billy said while Jacob licked his hand. You wait when I'm older. I'll get my own back. The full-length body strokes Billy gave Jacob came more out of frustration than love. What can I do? Jacob yawned. Sorry, Jax, am I boring you? Sarcasm got lost on the dog. You sure you've got no ideas? And don't say tell Mom or Dad. I can't. 'Cause if I do, Granddad will find out. Billy fought hard to hold back fresh tears. I hate Eddie. Anne's face appeared at the kitchen window, his jacket collar pulled up against the morning chill. He tapped on the glass. Come on, it's blinking freezing out here. Anne mouthed through the window. It's unlocked, Billy's voice sounded like a feeble old man. Anne let himself in and started speaking right away. I've thought about what Max said, about becoming pickpockets. I tried it on her and got a sweet. She never felt a thing. Anne stood as tall as he could. It's all about distraction. A smile lit up Anne's face. Go on, stand up. He pushed on Billy's shoulder. I'll show you. Come on. Anne had created his own drawing of a 20-pound note. He passed it to Billy. Put that in your pocket. Billy stood by the kitchen table, and Anne walked towards him, acting all cool. He banged into his friend's shoulder. Oh, sorry, mate. Ant used the distraction and fumbled around, trying to get his fingers into Billy's trouser pocket. Jacob had other ideas and pushed between them, defending his master. Both boys fell about laughing. Billy stopped giggling and dropped his head. What the flip was that about? If you do that to Eddie Jost, you won't laugh for long. Any other ideas? Not really. But Max said Tom, Katie, and Eddie would be in town tomorrow after school with their mom. Max will go to see the clock with Katie, with the one with soldiers. Ant waited for a response. So Billy could hardly bring himself to speak. If we go, we can tell Eddie's mom what he's done, and she'll get it back for us. Billy curled his top lip. Ant sounded desperate to help his best friend. I know it's not great, and maybe she won't believe us, but I'm not sure we've got any other choice. He put a hand on Billy's shoulder. Sorry, mate. Chapter 7. The Great Magiska. Come on, Mom. I'm not a kid. I've seen the clock loads of times. Those stupid soldiers marching about. Do I have to? Eddie protested as he pushed open the large glass doors to the shopping center. You're not the only person in this family. Katie and Tom want to see it. And Max too, I imagine. We need to hurry, or we'll miss it striking the hour. Eddie pushed Tom and mocked. Baby brother wants to see the soldiers. Hey, enough of that. You always used to beg me to take you to see it. Eddie's mom glared at him. Yeah, when I was 5 maybe. I'll be 15 next month. Well, you're still my baby. Eddie's mom grabbed his cheek. Coochie-coo. Oi, get off. Eddie jerked his head away. We're going to get something to eat after seeing the clock, his mom said, thinking food would win him over. I guess you're not too grown up to eat with us. No thanks, I'm meeting my mates. We're off for a burger. Eddie hooked his fingers into the waistband of his jeans, pulling them up just enough to cover his boxer shorts. Oh, okay. So where did you get the money from? His mom asked. Eddie shuffled his feet, dropped his gaze, and focused on the floor. The clock came into the view, and several people had gathered underneath it. Eddie's gang stood off to one side, looking like they had no interest. Well, his mom asked again. Eddie mumbled back as the thought he had a mouth full of mashed potatoes, saying something about a paper round before mooching off. Max spotted Billy's granddad. Billy's granddad, she called as her eyes widened. I'm here. She ran ahead of the group and reached him just as the clock struck 4. At each strike, from a door in the clock face, carved wooden figures dressed in red tunics, black trousers, and boots moved forward to present arm. The intricate mechanism whirred and chattered while soldiers followed soldier, moving around an elaborate track before disappearing for another hour. Katie's mom, Katie, and Tom came to stand by Max. This is Billy's granddad, Max said. He does magic. I know Tom here. Granddad shook Tom's hand. This young man said he didn't believe in magic, but I think he's changed his mind. He smiled at Tom. Tom returned his smile. Max said she was meeting you here. Katie's mom looked to Granddad for confirmation. She's my assistant. Granddad put his arm around Max's shoulder. We have an important magic trick to perform. Max beamed up at Billy's granddad. We're going to get something to drink first, Max said. She had her eye on Eddie, who stood several feet away, talking to his gang. Quickly, we need to go this way. She pulled on Granddad's jacket. Bye, Katie. Granddad said goodbye to the others as Max dragged him away. No one saw Ant and Billy arrive, with Jaco on a lead. Max signaling to Billy's granddad to bend down. She put her mouth to his ear. I heard them say they're going out to get a burger. We need to catch them up. Still holding Granddad's jacket, she led the way. Eddie and his mates were close to the burger bar entrance by the time Max and Granddad got close. Which one's Eddie? Granddad peered at the group of teenage boys. Him, the one with the jeans hanging down. Max pointed in the direction of Eddie. He needs a belt by the look of it. Don't be silly, Billy's granddad, that's fashion. Well, not for me, it's not. Trousers should be worn at the waist, Granddad said. Come on, quick, they're going in. Max went first. They joined the queue behind the lads, standing close enough to hear what they said. Too busy messing about, the lads didn't notice Max and Billy's granddad. It's your treat, Eddie, since you nicked the money, one of his gang said. I didn't exactly nick it. He sort of gave it to me, Eddie said. All the boys laughed. Yeah, otherwise you'd give him a beating. More laughter followed. So where's the famous 20-pound note? Another of the lads asked. Max stood on her tiptoes. Hope he shows it, she whispered, trying to see. Granddad shushed her. He'll hear you. Eddie slapped his thigh over his jean pocket. Without warning, Max reached up and tapped Eddie's arm. He whirled around, looked first at Billy's granddad and then at her. What? Eddie grunted. You said you like magic, Max said. Who wants to know? Eddie's eyes darted between the pair. Granddad took over the conversation. I've heard you got upset about not having an invite to Billy Field's birthday party. What are you going on about? Eddie looked them up and down before turning back to his mates. Granddad tapped his shoulder. What my assistant and I are trying to say is that we understand you like magic, so we're here to do a trick for you. Granddad remained calm, even though Eddie appeared menacing. Eddie looked back at him. Are you serious? He turned to his gang. This bloke is Office Roker. They all sniggered. The queue moved forward. Soon they would have to order and pay for their meals. Max tugged at Granddad's jacket. Go on, do it now, or it'll be too late. So, Eddie, Granddad said. Eddie turned once more to face them. You have a 20-pound note, I understand. Who told you? Mind your own business. Eddie jerked his head around to see who might be listening. His leg shook. Would you like another one? For free? Granddad asked. What? You're going to give me 20 quid for nothing? You're joking. An easy grin spread over Eddie's face. No, not at all. It's magic. Granddad sounded very matter-of-fact. If I say yes, will you go away? Eddie laughed along with his mates. Sure, the trick won't take long. All I need is your 20-pound note first. Granddad looked in Eddie's eyes. You do trust me, don't you? What? An old bloke like you? Eddie stared back but seemed unsure of what might happen. Here, he dug into his pockets to retrieve the crumpled note. Let's see what you can do with that. I want it back, mind you. Max slipped her hand-drawn note to Billy's granddad as he slid it up his sleeve. Then, taking the real note from Eddie, Granddad held it up for all to see. My, the Queen wouldn't be happy to see what you've done to her money. Billy's granddad used slow, deliberate movements and proceeded to smooth out the note before holding it over his head. The queue grew restless. Shouts of, "Come on, move up, I'm hungry," followed. Unmoved, Granddad, as the great Magiska, pivoted left and right, showing off the note to anyone who cared to look. The word Billy and 10-10-10 were clearly visible. As part of the act, he made the growling noise that came from deep in his chest. He whispered to Max, "When I say now, grab my hand and we'll make a dash for it." Max smiled and nodded. "Abracadabra," Billy's granddad said, waving his hand and making exaggerated movements. "On the head of my mother, let this note turn into another." Granddad pushed his hand upward and outward. He let Max's drawing fly. It rose into the air above Eddie's head. All eyes turned to watch. Now, Granddad grabbed Meg's outstretched hand and fled. He held her tight as they ran for the exit. Once outside, they sprinted towards the clock. "I'm a fast runner," Max said. Next to her, Billy's granddad puffed and panted. Max asked him, "Are you okay?" "We're nearly there." Granddad breathed heavily. "There's the clock," he looked about. "Can you see Katie's mom anywhere?" He stopped to scan the nearby shops and restaurants, but she seemed nowhere in sight. "Come on," Billy's granddad. "Look who's over there." Max pointed to two police officers gazing into a shop window. "It's PC Wright. He's often on our street." She clapped her hands in glee. "He always talks to me." Max ran towards the policeman. Granddad slowed to a stop. Propped up against a wall, he held his chest. He struggled for breath. Beads of perspiration formed on his brow, and he felt unwell. "Look, there he is! Hey, old man!" Eddie's shout alerted Granddad to his approach. But with each stride, Eddie's jeans slipped down, delaying his arrival. "So what's this then?" Eddie shoved Max drawing in Granddad's face. "You thought you could swindle me?" He bounced on his toes like a boxer warming up. "Me?" Eddie jostled. "Don't you know who I am?" He jabbed his fist into the air, missing Granddad's face by a few inches. "No one messes with me. No one. Do you hear me?" Eddie poked Granddad's chest. "Give me my money and we'll call it quits. Otherwise..." Spittle flowed from his lips as when he spoke, and then his eyebrows knotted together. To make sure Granddad got the message, he followed up with a series of air jabs, eyes facing straight ahead. Granddad never blinked. He watched Eddie's antics with a mixture of sorrow and amusement. Sorrow, as Eddie was young, and such behavior would get him into trouble in the years to come. And the amusement because with each bounce, Eddie's trousers slipped even further down. Out of the corner of his eye, Granddad saw Max leading the two burly police officers over. Granddad's silence and lack of retaliation frustrated Eddie even more. "Don't mess with me," Eddie said, their faces almost touching. "Give me my money now." The veins on his forehead stood out. Then, losing control, he pulled back his arms. Eddie held his clenched fist at shoulder height. Before Eddie could release a punch, PC Wright, with the skill of a champion wrestler, slipped his hand into the crook shape made by Eddie's arm. The police officer followed through and pinned Eddie against the wall, pulled his arms back behind him, and stretched his leg wide. "Get off me!" Unaware it was a police officer, Eddie wriggled to break loose. The ratcheting sound of closing handcuffs ended his struggle. "I have to caution you," PC Wright said. "You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defense if you do not mention when questioned something, which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. Do you understand?" The police officer waited for Eddie to speak. "And while you're at it, get your mom to buy you a belt to keep your trousers up, or I'll add indecent exposure to the charges." The sounds of sirens penetrated the shopping center. Billy and Aunt heard them, as everyone did in the area. "Let's take a look," Aunt said, leading the way. He set off in the direction of the commotion, and then jumped onto the bench seat to get a better view. "Hey, look, it's your granddad." Billy took off at top speed. Jacob pulled hard on his lead until Billy lost his grip. The dog vanished into the crowd. "Granddad!" Billy got stuck behind a line of people, all jostling to get a better view. "I'm here." Billy's heart throbbing in his chest. He pushed with all his might to force his way to the front, but a police officer stopped him. "It's my granddad. Please let me see him." Billy blinked back his fear. "Is this your sister?" The policeman held Max's hand. "Yes, no, not really." Confused, Billy just wanted to reach his granddad. "She's my maid's sister." Billy glanced at Max. "What are you doing here?" "We got your 20-pound back from Eddie." She couldn't get the words out fast enough, and PC Wright arrested him. She pointed towards handcuff Eddie. Tom, Katie, and their mom stood beyond him. A paramedic tried to examine Granddad, but Jaco grabbed the red blanket in which she had wrapped him. "It's okay, boy. She's a friend," Billy said reassuringly. The dog looked unconvinced and bared his teeth at the paramedic, just in case. Granddad looked pale and overwhelmed. Everything had moved so fast, but at least he'd managed to get Billy's money back. Chapter 8. The Wrong 20-pound Note. "Billy, why didn't you tell us?" his mom asked when they all arrived home safely. "I know Eddie Jost only too well. He's always in trouble at school. We've excluded him several times." Billy looked down at his hands, happy the whole thing was over, but guilty that he hadn't told his parents about his trouble. At least Granddad knew. He hadn't lied about losing the money. As for the great Magiska, Billy's mom turned to Granddad. "What if he'd punched you or something? You're too old for stunts like that. But thanks all the same, Dad." She gave her father a hug. Billy's mom then looked to Max, who sat at the table tucking into a bowl of her favorite ice cream. "We have Max here to thank. She saved the day." Between spoonfuls, Max grinned up at them. "Oh, Billy, before I forget," Granddad opened his wallet and removed a brand new crisp 20-pound note, taken from a cash point. "Here's your 20-pound note. Now, take it straight up to your bedroom and put it away safely." "Thanks, Granddad." Billy wrapped his arms around him. "And thanks, Max. I'll do it right now." He ran out of the room, heading for the stairs. Before he reached them, he let out a cry of pain. "Granddad?" Billy's stomach clenched like a vice. He ran back to where everyone stood. "It's not mine." He held out the note. The others moved in to get a closer look. "What do you mean it's not yours?" his mom asked. "See here," Billy pointed at the note. "My name's missing. I wrote Billy 10-10-10 in black ink on the Queen's neck, just under her chin." Billy's elation evaporated, and a sense of despair returned. No longer standing upright, he rounded his shoulders and slouched off towards his bedroom. He wanted to be alone. "Billy, come here, please." Granddad's voice sounded calm. "I need to tell you something." "What?" Billy didn't even bother to turn around. "Listen to your granddad, Billy," his mom said. "I'm sure there's a good explanation." Billy stood in front of Granddad, his eyes cast to the ground. He didn't want to hear an explanation. He just wanted his 20-pound note back. "Eddie Jost is a bad lad." Granddad shifted his gaze to Billy's mom, who nodded in agreement. "He's in real trouble for what he's done, and the police wants to take him to juvenile court. To do that, they need to ask you and Anne some questions about what happened in the park. Is that clear?" Granddad waited for a response. Billy muttered something about nothing little more than a few grunts. "Speak up, Billy. Granddad can't hear you so well," his mom said. "Yes, can I go now?" Billy turned to leave. Granddad caught hold of his arm. "Not yet. I haven't finished. As well as asking you questions, I need to make a statement. That's what the police calls it, about what happened. And since the whole thing revolves around your 20-pound note, they've kept it." "What? My 20-pound note? Why?" Billy stared at him, his eyes as round as saucers. "Because it is important evidence," Granddad said. "Will they take fingerprints and put it under one of those machines with blue lights to see if they match Eddie's?" The idea raced away with Billy. "Will they have to take my fingerprints and Anne's?" He inspected his hand, trying to remember which one he'd used to hold the note. "What about my writing?" He looked at his mom and then back to Granddad. "You know, because I wrote on it. Will I get in trouble with the Queen?" "Hey, slow down, Sherlock Holmes." Granddad looked glad to hear him asking questions. "Yeah, but what about Jaco? He could have touched it. Jaco was set by Billy. Will they want his paw prints?" Granddad and Billy looked down at the dog. Jaco raised a paw. "See, he knows." Billy took Jaco's paw. "You're a rascal," Granddad said, glancing at Billy's mom. "I see my favorite grandson is back." "Does that mean my note's gone forever?" Billy sighed heavily. "Only until been to court. But it might take a while, so in the meantime, I've given you a new one. Granddad beamed. You know, it doesn't matter about it not being the actual note. What's important is that you've got the money to spend as you want. Eddie will have to pay for what he's done. Bullying, stealing, and threatening behavior can't be allowed. Let's hope he's learned his lesson. Granddad took a hold of Billy's shoulder. Come on, Billy lad, smile. It's not as bad as all that. He tickled Billy's ribs. Billy squirmed and couldn't stop a laughing escape. He wriggled to get away. Jaco joined in the fun, barking enthusiastically. Desperately, Billy wanted his 20-pound note to remind him of his once-in-a-lifetime 10th birthday on the 10th day of the 10th month. He felt pleased he could count on his family and friends in times of trouble. And he still had Granddad's 20 pounds to spend on a special birthday present. The end.